There is something deeply primal, deeply human about developing leg power. The legs are our foundation, not just in the anatomical sense, but neurologically, hormonally, and psychologically. When you train your legs, you are sending a signal through the nervous system that you are preparing for intensity, challenge, and movement through the world. You're not just growing muscle, you're sculpting your brain's map of control and dominance over force. When we engage the quads, glutes, hamstrings, and calves under load, be it through squats, lunges, or sprint work, we are calling upon the highest threshold motor units in the body. These are the same circuits that drive explosive action and rapid responses. This process doesn't just live in the muscles, it lives in the brain, in the cortex and the spinal cord, in the way neurons wire and fire together. Training leg power refines the way the brain communicates with the body, and there's a hormonal cascade that follows. Effort leg training spikes testosterone and growth hormone. These are not just muscle hormones, they are mood, motivation, and focus hormones. They influence how we show up in the world outside the gym. Confidence is not a mindset alone, it is a chemistry. And that chemistry is trainable. You see, the pursuit of leg strength is not about aesthetics alone. It's about building a system, neurological, muscular, and endocrine, that's prepared for anything. When you develop real leg power, your gait changes, your posture changes, your presence changes, You radiate capability. There's also the truth of longevity. Research shows that lower body strength is one of the most powerful predictors of health and independence later in life. Every rep, every step, every drop of effort you put into your legs today is a deposit into the account of your future vitality. You're literally extending your life, your performance window, and your resilience to injury and decay. But to really build leg power, you need to be intentional. You need to engage with full mental presence, what we call top-down control. Visualize the contraction before it happens. She'll initiate from the mind, not just the muscle. This primes the neural circuitry and deepens the connection. That's where the magic happens, when your attention amplifies adaptation. So if you're tired, good. That's where the threshold lies. That's where progress is made. Every time you choose to move, to squat, to drive force into the ground, you're shaping not just your body, but your biology and your psychology. Your legs are not just limbs. They are tools of power. Train them like your life depends on it, because in many ways it does. Leg power begins in the brain. What many people miss in the conversation about physical strength is that muscle is only the end result. What actually initiates and drives strength is the nervous system. Specifically, the brain and spinal cord coordinate the recruitment of muscle fibers through a complex series of neural pathways, and these can be trained for increased efficiency and output. This is where the neuroscience of strength truly comes into play. Every time you perform a squat, a deadlift, or a jump, your brain is sending a highly coordinated electrical signal through motor neurons to activate muscle fibers in precise sequences and intensities. When we talk about getting stronger, we are really talking about the brain learning to send faster, cleaner, and more powerful signals. In the early phases of strength training, the majority of progress is neural. Before the muscles grow significantly in size, the nervous system adapts by increasing its ability to recruit more motor units, the bundles of muscle fibers, controlled by a single motor neuron. More specifically, the brain becomes better at synchronizing these motor units to fire together with greater force and less delay. This is why even after just a few sessions of focused leg training, people feel stronger without necessarily seeing physical changes yet. The system is becoming more efficient. It's like upgrading the software at the hardware. You can lift more not because your legs are suddenly bigger, but because your brain is learning how to use what you already have more effectively. These adaptations involve several key brain areas. The motor cortex becomes more active and refined in how it sends out commands. The cerebellum contributes by fine-tuning movement, precision, and balance. The basal ganglia optimize movement patterns by filtering out unnecessary or inefficient muscle activity. The spinal cord itself undergoes adaptation by reducing inhibitory signals and allowing for greater force generation. It's a full system upgrade that primes the entire neuromuscular axis for greater output. Importantly, these changes can be accelerated through specific types of training. Compound movements, explosive lifts, and high-intensity intervals that demand full attention and coordination. There's also a feedback loop involved. As the legs exert force, sensory neurons send information back to the brain about tension, velocity, and position. This real-time feedback allows the brain to update its models and improve its motor output the next time. The more often this loop is engaged through consistent training, the more refined and powerful it becomes. Over time, the body learns to produce force with greater efficiency, less hesitation, and more stability. This is the essence of neurological adaptation. Moreover, mental focus during training plays a major role in these changes. When an athlete concentrates on the movement, feeling the contraction, visualizing the lift, staying engaged, the neural circuits responsible for those patterns become more deeply embedded. This top-down control enhances synaptic plasticity, the ability of neurons to form stronger connections with each other. It's not just about lifting heavy weights, it's about how intensely and intentionally you do it. This is the neurological foundation of leg power. When we train our legs with high intensity through heavy compound movements, sprints, jumps, or explosive lifts, we are not just stimulating the muscles locally, we are triggering a profound systemic hormonal response that affects the entire body. The legs, being among the largest muscle groups in the body, act as powerful hormonal engines. When activated, engaging them in intense physical effort stimulates the release of anabolic hormones such as testosterone, growth hormone, and insulin-like growth factor 1, AGSA1, all of which play essential roles in muscle growth, tissue repair, metabolic regulation, and neural function. Testosterone, often misunderstood as merely a male sex hormone, plays a crucial role in recovery, drive, and focus for both men and women. When leg muscles are trained with sufficient volume and intensity, especially under progressive overload, the brain detects this effort and responds by signaling the hypothalamic pituitary gonadal axis to increase testosterone production. This hormonal surge does more than just support muscle synthesis. It enhances mental clarity, confidence, and the willingness to take on challenges. It affects dopamine pathways in the brain, enforcing motivation and drive, turning physical training into a catalyst for psychological resilience. Growth hormone is another key player released in response to leg training, especially during short, intense bouts that challenge the anaerobic system. Exercises like heavy squats, sled pushes, or hill sprints drive lactate accumulation, which is directly correlated with increased growth hormone secretion. This hormone supports tissue regeneration, fat metabolism, and collagen production, which means better joint health, quicker recovery, and improved structural integrity over time. It also facilitates better sleep quality, particularly deep, slow-wave sleep, during which the majority of tissue repair and adaptation takes place. The combination of testosterone and growth hormone also enhances the production and effectiveness of IGF-1, which works on a cellular level to trigger muscle protein synthesis and repair. IGF-1 is critical for the development of new muscle fibers and for the maintenance of neurological function. When these hormones are elevated as a result of training large muscle groups like the legs, their effects extend far beyond the workout window. They influence daily energy levels, cognitive sharpness, and metabolic health. This is why athletes often report feeling sharper and more energized after a lower body training session compared to upper body work. The hormonal spike is greater, and the systemic impact is deeper. It's also important to consider the role of cortisol in this hormonal equation. Cortisol is often labeled as a stress hormone, but in the right dose and timing, it plays an important role in mobilizing energy and driving adaptation. Intense leg training creates a short-term elevation in cortisol, which signals the body to break down fuel stores and activate repair pathways. When training is balanced with adequate recovery, this controlled stress leads to supercompensation, a state where the body adapts by becoming stronger, more resilient, and more hormonally efficient. What emerges from this process is a body and brain that are more hormonally aligned for performance. The chemical signals released from the effort exerted during leg training rewire systems that affect everything from how we move to how we think, feel, and respond to the world around us. Explosive leg power is one of the most significant markers of functional performance and long-term health. When we train for explosive power through movements like sprints, box jumps, Olympic lifts, or plyometrics, we're not only enhancing our athleticism, but also tapping into a deep neurological and physiological reserve that influences how we age, how we move, and how we resist physical decline over time. The ability to generate force rapidly is essential not just for performance on the field or in the gym, but also for everyday activities, like getting up from a chair, catching ourselves from a fall, or moving quickly in moments of unexpected demand. This is where the connection between explosive leg training and longevity becomes clear. The same systems we train for speed and power are the ones that protect us as we age. Power declines with age more rapidly than raw strength, and the loss of fast-twitch muscle fibers is a primary reason for decreased mobility in older adults. These fibers, responsible for quick and forceful contractions, are heavily involved in explosive leg training. And when we challenge them through high-velocity, high-intensity work, we preserve their function and capacity. This kind of training encourages the nervous system to maintain high rates of motor unit recruitment and keeps the neuromuscular system sharp, coordinated, and reactive. The benefit here isn't just limited to muscular function. It's about keeping the brain's control over the body intact, sharp, and responsive over time. In studies on aging populations, those with higher leg strength and power consistently show greater independence, better balance, and reduced risk of falls and injuries. These are not superficial metrics. They are predictors of mortality, hospitalizations, and overall quality of life. Explosive training stimulates the vestibular system, proprioceptive feedback, and coordination pathways in the brain, which are all essential for maintaining dynamic stability. This is why athletes and non-athletes alike who incorporate regular power-based leg training tend to maintain youthfulness in the way they move and react. The training keeps the connection between intent and action alive and fluid. The metabolic demand of explosive leg training also plays a role in cardiovascular and metabolic health. These workouts require rapid ATP turnover, increased oxygen consumption, and systemic blood flow, which leads to better mitochondrial efficiency and cardiovascular adaptations. A few sprints or jump sets may be brief, but the metabolic ripple effect continues long after the session ends. The hormonal response is also amplified, creating acute spikes in growth hormone, endorphins, and dopamine, which improve recovery, mood, and brain function. This keeps the training not just physically effective, but emotionally and cognitively rewarding. Explosive power work also encourages structural resilience. The bones, tendons, and ligaments all adapt to the forces placed upon them. When we load the legs with high-intensity, rapid efforts, we increase bone density, improve joint integrity, and thicken connective tissues. These adaptations help buffer against the brittleness that can set in with age, making the body not only strong but durable. The mind-muscle connection is one of the most underappreciated yet powerful tools in the development of leg power. It's the deliberate, focused engagement of mental effort with physical action, creating a heightened level of neural drive and muscular recruitment. And this process is far more than just thinking about the muscle while you train. It is the intentional synchronization of attention, visualization, and force output that enhances the quality and effectiveness of every repetition. When you consciously focus on a specific muscle group during movement, such as the glutes firing during a hip thrust or the quadriceps driving upward in a squat, you amplify the recruitment of muscle fibers, particularly those that are harder to activate through unconscious. But 2. Mechanical movement alone. The brain doesn't simply issue commands to the body like a one-way street. It adapts, listens, and sharpens its communication with the body based on the quality of attention being applied. Visualizing a movement before execution, mentally rehearsing the contraction, or actively concentrating on the sensation of tension in the muscle sends a clear signal through the motor cortex to the neuromuscular junctions. Over time, this deliberate mental engagement enhances synaptic plasticity, which is the brain's ability to form stronger and more efficient neural connections. These changes lead to faster muscle fiber recruitment, improved coordination, and increased force production, particularly in compound lifts where multiple muscle groups must act in concert under load. Focused intention also reduces compensatory patterns where secondary muscles take over due to lack of awareness or weak primary movers. For example, without proper attention, the lower back may dominate a deadlift instead of the hamstrings and glutes. But by cultivating a deep connection to the intended muscle groups, you ensure that mechanical stress is placed precisely where it's needed, minimizing injury risk and maximizing adaptation. It turns training from an unconscious repetition of effort into a skillful practice of neural precision. The mind-muscle connection plays a critical role in overcoming plateaus. When progress stalls, it is often because the nervous system has become too efficient at executing a familiar pattern, making the load feel easier, but also reducing the growth signal. Heck no. By changing the mental approach, slowing the tempo, deepening focus, emphasizing peak contraction, you reintroduce challenge and novelty at the neural level. This not only reactivates growth pathways, but increases training variability without the need to constantly increase external load. It becomes a way to train smarter, not just harder. There is also a significant psychological component. Practicing this type of deep focus in training enhances mindfulness and teaches the brain to remain present under physical stress. It improves emotional regulation and builds what neuroscientists call attentional endurance, the ability to sustain concentration in high-pressure scenarios. Athletes who develop this connection report more control, less wasted energy, and greater consistency in performance. The brain becomes more efficient at translating effort into output, and the feedback loop between intention and movement grows stronger with every rep performed under conscious control. Adaptive stress is the foundation upon which all physical progress is built, and leg training provides one of the most potent forms of this stimulus. When the legs are subjected to intense bouts of resistance or explosive movement, the body interprets this as a significant stressor, a disruption to homeostasis that triggers a cascade of responses at the cellular, neurological, and hormonal levels. This stress is not inherently negative. In fact, it's essential. It's this disruption that initiates the adaptation process. Without it, the body has no reason to become stronger, faster, or more resilient. But it's not just the stress itself that matters. It's the body's ability to recover from it that determines whether we get stronger or simply become depleted. In the context of leg power, adaptive stress must be applied with intention and variability. Heavier loads, faster contractions, and novel movement patterns all create specific challenges that force the body to respond. These stresses activate satellite cells in the muscle tissue, stimulate protein synthesis, and increase the density of mitochondria within the muscle fibers. They also initiate neural adaptations that make the brain more efficient at coordinating powerful movements. But every time this stress is applied, it creates microtears in muscle tissue. Muscle tissue depletes glycogen stores and taxes the nervous system. This is where recovery becomes not just a passive waiting period, but an active, biologically critical phase of adaptation. The recovery phase is when the real transformation occurs. During sleep, especially deep non-REM stages, the brain clears out metabolic waste, restores neurotransmitter levels, and allows the body to engage in tissue repair through the secretion of growth hormone and other anabolic signals. Recovery also recalibrates the autonomic nervous system, shifting the body from a sympathetic fight-or-flight state into a parasympathetic rest-and-digest mode. This is necessary to reduce systemic inflammation, improve mood, and restore hormonal balance. Without adequate recovery, even the most well-structured leg training program will eventually lead to stagnation or breakdown. The key is to balance high-quality stress with equally high-quality recovery strategy. This balance is known as supercompensation, the process by which the body not only returns to baseline after a stressor but exceeds it. It's a measurable, observable phenomenon. Legs get stronger, muscles get denser, and neural firing becomes more efficient. But it only happens when the body has been allowed to process and grow from the stimulus. That means optimizing nutrition, sleep, hydration, and even mental recovery. Active recovery methods like light movement, mobility work, and breath training can accelerate this process by promoting circulation and reducing neural fatigue. Leg training by nature is deeply taxing because of the sheer volume of muscle mass involved and the systemic demand it places on the cardiovascular, nervous, and endocrine systems. This makes the recovery phase not just important, but foundational. Learning to read the body's signals, knowing when to push, when to pull back, and how to facilitate deep recovery is a skill that separates long-term progress from short-term burnout. It transforms leg power development from random effort into a precise cycle of stress, adaptation, and regeneration that reshapes the body at every level. Building true leg power is not just about lifting heavier or moving faster, it's about understanding the deep interplay between your brain, your body, and your biology. It's the deliberate practice of training your nervous system to fire with greater precision, your muscles to generate force with speed and intent, and your hormones to work in harmony with your goals. It's about using explosive movement to protect against decline, developing a mind-muscle connection that sharpens focus and discipline, and respecting recovery as the phase where transformation takes root. Every time you train your legs with intensity, presence, and purpose, you are not only forging strength, you are sending a message to your body that you are here to move, to lead, and to thrive. Your power starts from the ground up. Own it. Build it and let it carry you forward through every challenge life puts in your path.